couple of days ago, I was taking Ison for a walk, and I live in a fairly urban area, but in parts it's quite rural. So within a 10-minute walk of where I live, there's fields, there's horses, there's farms, there's country lanes. So I decided to take it down this country lane. And when I joined the lane, in the distance, probably about 150 yards away from me, I could see a young lady running down the centre of the lane. And she had two dogs, both dogs off lead. And they were bouncing from one grass verge to the other grass verge, just bouncing backwards and forwards and then running off behind her and then running in front of her. It appeared she had very little control over him. So when I noticed this, I thought, well, I don't want to get involved in this. So I turned round and left the lane and got onto a small unadopted road. Now, the reason I did that is because if you ask somebody to put their dog on the lead, one of three things is going to happen. The most likely is you're going to get involved in a row. The second is the person is just going to ignore you and walk off, and eventually the dogs will follow them. Or the third, the least likely, is that somebody will apologise, put their dog on the lead and go away. That is absolutely the least likely. So I didn't want to get involved in an altercation. So I turned around and walked off. As soon as I turned my back and walked off, I could hear shouting and screaming behind me. So I immediately knew what was happening. This lady's dogs had left her and were running up the road towards me. Now, by the time I recognised that or realised that, I was immediately jumped on by what appeared to be a sort of 5-year-old Labrador and a 6-month-old Labrador pup. Now, they weren't aggressive, but they were just jumping all over Ison, just relentlessly jumping all over it, tails wagging. And this went on for about 25, 30 seconds until the owner came around the corner. And I said to her, "Can you just get your dogs on the lead? Keep them under control." And she said to me, "I run down this lane every morning." Now, I don't know what that was supposed to mean, what the relevance of that was. So I said, "Well, that's not relevant." I said, "Just put your dogs on the lead, take them away, I'm not bothered." So then she said to me, "How do you expect me to jog with my dogs whilst they're on the lead?" I said, just take them away. Just go and take them away. So she turned and walked away. And as she was walking away, she turned around to face me and she said to me, "If I've got a problem with my dog being aggressive, why don't I just put a muzzle on it?" And I don't know where any of that came from, because I didn't have a problem with my dog being aggressive. My dog's not aggressive. I don't like other people's dogs jumping all over it. But anyway, this little chat is not about irresponsible dog ownership. This is about something slightly more serious than irresponsible dog ownership. And this is about the 1988 Road Traffic Act. And the 1988 Road Traffic Act clearly states that you cannot have your dog on a public road off lead, which simply means you have to have your dog on a lead if you're on a public road. It's just that simple. Now, this is not an opinion. This is not a good idea. This is law. And it's the Road Traffic Act. Now, if you are found guilty of an offence under the Road Traffic Act, you will be charged and fined. And the fines are not insignificant. They could be up to £5,000. So here's this lady with two dogs, totally oblivious of the fact that she was breaking the law, with two dogs. She could have been taken to court and charged £5,000 for each dog. So she could have been in the hole for 10 grand. The other thing was that when these dogs were jumping about all over Ison, I realised neither of them had a collar on either. So you've got a lady with two dogs off leads that had no collars. Now, she was wearing lycra running stuff. And she didn't have leads. So she'd left the house without leads with two dogs that were out of her control with no collars on. So don't take your dog on a walk, on a road, without a lead. And don't take your dog out of the house without a collar, without an identity disc, without the name, your name and address and telephone number on the back of it. Because it's simple. It's against the law.